Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello, once again, welcome to another iteration of the Simulationist podcast. So glad you could all join us this week. We're recording on the 29th of December.
Although don't forget, because we're recording this for posterity, they can join us not just within this upcoming week, but any time throughout the future of humanity. So long as the internet keeps sending files around for people, there's a concept that will still be out there for people to enjoy.
Absolutely, that's what I always say. We try and keep these,
eternal and classic.
Eternal. So if you are listening from the future, hello, this is the past, coming from the past. How are you? Anyways.
So just imagine what it'd be like our grandchildren listening to this, you know, and be like listening to the old like Edison stuff on those phonograph or wax wheels. So MP3. I don't know if we have anything that can play that low on the digit scale. I mean, the oldest thing I got will play an MP7. That's about it. We're going to need some old-fashioned technology to make this work here, Grandpa.
So, of these things that we're doing, these iterations, the 69th.
Yes.
Insert joke here.
Yeah, we'll be classy and not mention anything about that.
Anyways, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Josh Trelevin, as always.
I'm still Ryan Kirkby. I haven't changed my name yet, and I kind of like it, so I don't think I will.
Okay. Well, I changed it a couple times, but you don't change it back all the time.
So what did you do this week, Josh?
This week I set up a server, like a Minecraft multiplayer server for my family, for like my brothers and sisters.
So I'm not allowed to go in there and just start making dynamite to put TNT everywhere and just start blowing people out.
Actually, I will whitelist you if you want, if you're interested, and I'll tell them who you are, and because you're basically.
I'll just wind up strip mining entire areas and just building tall pillars around there, just to say, what is up with this guy? He's just building big stacks of dirt up to the sky and then surrounding it with water so he can jump off later on.
But anyway, it's a sort of family and friends server that I set up. Although I did mod it, so you'll have to download some files if you want to go on the server. Hopefully, I don't know if that's too much.
Anyways, I should be all right.
Maybe you can do that. Maybe we can talk about that off the air, I think. So anyways, I was going to say, that seems to have really excited them. Like my family is really into Minecraft. Like, well, not my parents still don't know what it's really all about. But my brothers and sisters.
It's like Lego as a video game.
Yeah,
and that kind of explains enough to them that they get the gist.
But they know that my brothers and sisters love it, and they're like can't get enough of it. They keep calling me, can you go on and can you play and can you help us and stuff like that. The server is set to hard difficulty. I don't know if I'm maybe a little bit cruel in that sense. So they do keep dying, but they seem to be having fun.
Well, that's the thing is as long as you're having fun, death is only just like and then start up again.
Yeah, and of course the rules changes that I mentioned, like my mods and stuff. They can't make cobblestone stairs, which seems to be like I'm starting to regret that decision a little bit, taking the cobblestone stairs out of the game. Although I guess it's not that big a deal, but it's like.
They know how a furnace works. They can make regular brick.
Yeah, I made it so they have to make them out of brick, or they can make wood stairs. But I've also added like grass stairs, thatch, which only comes in stair shape. Like you can't make a block of thatch. You can only make stairs. So that's another little thing that they can do. So I've been having lots of fun playing with family, like the brothers and the sisters, and it's really cool playing Minecraft with younger people and people who aren't as good at the game as I am, because like I try really hard to make, I don't know, things look, I don't want to say good, and I don't want to say
aesthetically pleasing structures.
I'm not the best builder, but sometimes kids just, it's just dig holes wherever, and just a creeper blows up. Oh well, I guess that hole's there forever.
Admittedly, that happens with me every once in a while too. It's like, I'll come back to that, and I'll just deal with that when I'm there later, whatever.
Yeah, and of course, like being kind of good at the game, I've been getting a lot of the iron for them and the resources and doing the mining. So, but I don't mind that, because like that's what I play Minecraft for, is to mine and to craft.
Well, at least you're playing it right then, because you're working with the title.
Yeah, although I do wonder, like, I can cheat, so maybe I should just cheat and not tell them. Well.
Oh, by the way, here's Diamond everything for you guys. That's right, I found a nice vein or two. Who's your favorite brother?
Well, right now, I mean, I'm the best one because I run the server. So, but I suppose I could get even more points if I. But no, I haven't cheated yet. Although, well, I had to go in and because I screwed. I'm so bad at coding. I forgot to update some files, so I crashed the server.
Whoops.
When it tries to load in a jungle temple.
Oh yeah.
And I deleted some lines of code where it records that it's generated a jungle temple, because it has a little bit of extra stuff that they added just to convert it over from one version to the next. So it has to rewrite the jungle temple into certain files. And I deleted that code, so it's like, well, I want to rewrite the file, but you're not telling me how to do it, so it crashes.
Oh.
So I had to fix that.
So keep away from the jungles.
Well, I think it should work now, hopefully. I mean, there's probably other bugs.
Fingers crossed.
So I've been sort of troubleshooting and then like killing zombies for them, and just sort of, I mean, I don't want to. My Minecraft. I always play Minecraft. It's like something I almost every day play the game. So I can't say it's brought it back for me or anything, but probably I have played a lot more Minecraft in the last few days.
It has a nice little joie de vivre to it.
It's different. And every once in a while I get into multiplayer a little bit more. Always in the past it's been on other people's servers, but now it's on family servers, so it's a little bit, it's interesting, it's different, it's cool, it's fun.
Nice.
So, I mean, I think that's basically my week in fiction.
As for me, I've got too much lava. I'm digging down deep, and I'm building my Umbral Paradise thing, and I've got this nice base going on down at the very far depths of the map. Nice big open pit. But there's so much lava there, and I'm running out of space to put it.
Right.
Like, I've been moving it all north of the pit, and I've just been moving it out so there's a nice area. But I keep having to expand that area out. I mean, it's okay, get rid of these trees, get rid of this stuff, move it all down nice and flat.
And you store, like, one at a time.
I store it in 2x2 squares with a nice little matrix of dirt around there so I can maneuver around. And it looks nice, I quite like it, but there's just so much lava down there. I'm starting to think, well, maybe I should just start making some obsidian in case I'll need it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then I think about, no, I don't know. Once you get rid of the lava source, it's not like water. And so I'm like, well, what should I be doing? Should I be making this, obsidian, or should I just keep storing the magma so I can move it up and have a lot of fun with it once I have everything moved up to the very top? And it's just like, I just don't know what to do. There's just so much lava. And, well, there's so many other things to do. I was like, well, every time I'm moving the lava up, that takes time out of doing other things like backfilling in all these pits I keep encountering. And I'm getting rid of a lot of my spare cobblestone that I've generated. I'm turning it into regular rock, and I'm putting it in like, I found a chasm. And it's like, well, you know what, after this certain point on my pit, I really don't need to have anything behind there. So I'm just going in the back there, tossing up a nice pillar of of dirt, and then I'm just get rid of all the stone I've accumulated and move it all up out of the way. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's just something I'm doing. It's like, okay, now get rid of that. Maybe I can make the claim it's to prevent Endermen from just naturally spawning all over the place. But there's no real reason for me to be doing this, and yet I find myself like almost compelled.
I think that's sort of how Minecraft. Yeah, that's almost the definition of Minecraft. It's almost a neurological disorder.
Very much so. So it's just a little weird there. In other areas, I tried getting back into the World of Warcraft this week.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
Well, it's the Winter Veil Festival, so if I log in, and I get that, okay, you get free week, to retry again. I can get my presents.
Oh, yeah.
And so I logged in with an alt on the free trial account, and I'm just wandering around. It's like, why was I here the first time? What's the appeal? Why was I spending so many hours every day on this thing? And I can't find that spark again. Maybe I've outgrown it. Maybe it's changed into something else in the game. But I had a hard time staying in there. And 30 minutes later, I found myself logging off to go play with my daughter.
Okay, well, 30 minutes is I don't know. I think that's still a win for Blizzard. They got you to play for 30 minutes.
Well, the thing is, I used to play for 4 hours at a time.
Yeah.
That'd be nothing. I get home from work, sit down at the computer, maybe with a little bit of food at the side, and I just log in, start doing daily, see what's going on for group stuff. There's a nice little 5-man pickup group going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I don't know. It's like, maybe because this account doesn't have any of my friends linked onto it, so if I go on my regular account, not the free trial one, I can go about and actually, talk to my friends, and maybe that's what makes the difference. Like, oh, hey, so-and-so is doing this. Let's all go help them out. Or, experience everything else everyone else is doing. And maybe that's what makes it better, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem as appealing as it used to. And it hasn't really changed that much.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, this alt that you were playing, did you play through quests and stuff, or is this a max level alt? Or
I still have 7 more levels. Oh, actually, no, I got 5 more levels now before I wind up maxing out the level.
Okay.
But, I played, I went around, I did the daily cooking quest, and then I went out to finish up some quests. It was like, oh, hey, go into, Ashara and do some quests there. And I was hacking, elves, and I was destroying, the livestock and chopping down trees. And
yeah.
I was enjoying myself, at least minimally, because I was wanting to finish up the quest, keep the chains going. Mm-hmm. But, it just wasn't as, I have to finish all the quests in this zone, that's my goal. It just, the dedication I used to have wasn't there anymore, and I'm wondering why.
Well, it might be you.
Maybe I've changed. Maybe I've grown into other things.
But yeah, they used to say about video games a long, long time ago that they were for kids. I mean, do you remember that time? I don't even know.
I don't know. I remember sinking $10 in quarters onto a Ninja Turtles arcade game. And if you guys sink that sort of cash in, you're not exactly always a kid. Otherwise, you're blowing out a month's allowance in a single day.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just something that struck me as weird. I think, why was I paying $15 a month for this? It's enjoyable. I like it. And my computer's better than ever. I can actually go through Orgrimmar and not have it lag down to about 2 frames a minute. So I can actually go around. I can see all the stuff people are doing. Oh, hey, look at these panda people. They look kind of interesting. Maybe if I could pick that up, maybe spend a month or 2 and get a chance to try out the Panda World stuff, maybe I'll get back into it. But it's like, why was I waiting in line at midnight for the expansions?
Did you?
For the previous ones, yeah. The Pandaria one is the only one I never waited at the midnight lineup for, and I'm looking there now. I'm like, what? Why was I so big? Why was I so dedicated? Why was so much a part of my life back then?
Yeah. Well, I played a lot of WoW. I mean, I guess I just play a lot of different games now. I mean, yeah, I've transitioned over to Minecraft. So I think for me, I think I'm always going to have something. It won't always be the same game. So maybe I'll look back at Minecraft and be like, how did I spend so much time on this?
I will say this: I do have an urge to get my main character fully geared in the, I think it's tier 6 warrior set, and get a nice good weapon, and then set aside enough cash so that when the time comes, I can get the whole WoW figure printed out, because they can do that with the 3D printing now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's like, I like the tier 6 because, with the Bulwark of Azeroth and the whole set looked up, it looked like this is a real suit of armor. This is something a real warrior might wear into battle. It's not something, with prancing little fineries and the shoulders got birds landing on it and stuff. It's like, no, this is legitimate armor. So I want to find a weapon that says, this is a weapon that, is seriously threatening without it having, like, glowing pieces or, sparkling crystals going around in certain spots. I want it to look like a real-world weapon, like something you could conceivably believe. Mm-hmm. And so I figure maybe if I make that my goal, and just go in, get the stuff, do the stuff, get the whole set, and maybe that'll reinvigorate me, and I'll say, okay, that's where I effectively call it my proper final ending. I got that. I got the real-world figure out of it. Set it down, and there's my commemoration.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, well, World of Warcraft could exist into the indefinite future if people like you just go back online every once in a while. As long as at some point they pay some money,
it's still profitable. Yeah.
It would be a business that could still continue to run.
Well, the freemium works for a lot of game settings. The only one I recall shutting down that I played was the City of Heroes, and that was shut down for reasons other than financial viability. They were still making over $1 million a year off of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which, okay, maybe that's just a hill of beans to a company, but guaranteed $1 million a year. That's always nice to enhance the bottom line, but they shut it down because they had wanted to get their people to focus on other areas. It's like, we're going to take you off the project and move you there, so we're just going to shut this down. It's making $1 million, so it's helping us out, but not enough money. So it's a weird executive decision there.
I wonder if they just have another project that would make them $2 million instead. So that might be the idea.
Well, I've seen a few things from NCSoft, but nothing I'm going to want to play because I don't know if they're going to say, oh, we can make more profit elsewhere, so we're going to shut you down on this. They've proven themselves as someone who's willing to cut and run. And that is not something I want to be a part of. I want to be part of something that says, like, we'll try and be around as long as possible.
Yeah, well, I think if I was in charge, I think I would probably strongly want to keep the thing going, as long as it is profitable. And if we have, like...
It's not just the profit, it's to show your dedication. It's like, okay, this wasn't as big as it used to be, but the people who play it still seem to like it. And I have to say, I really did feel like a hero doing the saving the day. They were just little, NPCs, but I felt like I was saving the day. I felt like I was legitimately a hero. There were times in Warcraft where I felt like a butcher.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I'm just going to go out and I'm going to kill 5 of every wildlife in this area, and that's going to get me, certain quest achievements. And, okay. But when I saved the day as a hero, I felt like I saved the day as a hero. I did something, even if it was just a digital thing in the long run. It meant something to me.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, well, yeah.
And so
it's too bad that that's gone.
Well, there's a spiritual successor that they're working on. I think there's a Kickstarter for it.
Okay.
They're trying to work out something where it feels the same. Even if the rules aren't the same, the powers aren't the same, it will feel the same. And that's the spiritual successor part of it then, I suppose. But yeah, I tried that and I couldn't find why I wanted WoW anymore. It's like, I don't need you. I've grown beyond. Or maybe we've just parted ways.
Perhaps. It's funny because when I play a video game now, like WoW or any game where you kind of go into the world and you're like, oh, okay, I can walk around and stuff. The first thing I want to do is, I want to dig down. Like, my instinct is like, get out my pickaxe and dig straight down. I mean, what else? So many games don't have that because, it's just, this is the world and you can't. So, I mean, I think that, like, Minecraft, like, is kind of revolutionary in that way, in that you can go literally anywhere. Like, well, of course, there's limits. Like, you
can only go up to 255 high, and you can only go down to about 3 or 4 low.
Yeah, exactly.
But by and large, it's an open sandbox game, and that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I like that.
But, yes, and other things for fiction this week, I got a chance to watch the movie Princess Mononoke.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yes. I made the original first mistake.
Huh?
Studio Ghibli, they make good stuff. So, it's like, oh, Studio Ghibli and it's animated. Oh, well, sure, it's okay to have my daughter in the room. And then within the first 5 minutes, there was like an evil demon boar with weird, like maggot things crawling all over it. And it turns out it's actually like just infested, diseased blood, and it's like all over the place. Like, whoa, maybe it's a good thing my daughter's not paying attention. This is not something you want to show to someone so young.
Yeah, you don't want to give her nightmares.
Not that I think she can really understand it. It would just be an ugly thing that's running around in there. So I'm not sure if she would get the truth. Just like, ew, it's creepy looking sort of vibe.
Well, she might get a little bit of that, even just being, she's just over 1 year old, so she might be able to sort of comprehend.
But yeah, I made the classic mistake of thinking animated should be alright for kids to be in the room.
Yeah, if it's Japanese, you can't make that.
Well, that's the thing. It's Studio Ghibli, and I've seen a number of their other stuff. Spirited Away was, nice, and they've done was it Ponyo, the girl that's also a fish sort of thing, wonderfully done. And so there are stuff out there that you can automatically assume is good for the entire family.
Okay.
But I made the classic noob mistake on that one. I said I loved the movie, wonderfully animated. The bit that really caught me was the lack of there being a defined real villain. There were people doing villainous things, but they had a good, or at least for them, a legitimate motive. And so everyone wound up having like redeeming characteristics.
Then you don't like that?
I did like it. I found it very interesting. That way, I mean, there was a lot of an ecological, theme to it. There's like people that were effectively stripping a mountain down into nothingness to get the iron ore out of it. So they had a nice big iron works. And there was one lady, she was in control of it, and she was actively battling the spirits of the forest so that they could claim the mountain for their own resources.
Okay, yeah.
So you could call her the bad guy in that one. She's going against nature. How dare she? What a bad person. But you know what? A lot of her workforce was like women out of brothels moved over to there so they can have a good, like a real something to work with. Not just, working in a brothel. So she was actively, helping out to the society and making sure that these women who would otherwise be stuck in a job that was not exactly the best can do something that has a little bit more meaning to them. And she's making sure she actually protects, she cares about this town, she cares about the people within it. She hires lepers to work out. They're really skilled at doing the little work, so she's having them make guns and work on new designs, lighter weight, easier carry, better, more accurate stuff. And yeah,
it's a great charity.
Well, that's the thing is other people would have just shunned the lepers, say, "Oh, get out of here! I don't want to see you. You're horrible." And yeah, they're bandaged up, but she has them working. She has them doing something besides wasting their life waiting for death. And so because of that, they are loyal to her. These women, these lepers, they're all very, very loyal to her because she's helping them. So she's not a clear-cut villain.
Right.
She's doing something wrong. She wouldn't be what you consider like a stereotypical villain. And you can keep seeing that. There's like a monk who's, he's got forces, he's working on both sides. He wants to get the spirit of the forest head because he thinks, apparently according to legend, that'll help bestow immortality. And that's what the emperor wants, is immortality. So he gets the head for the emperor. He gets a lot of wealth. And so, he wants something pretty bad. He wants the spirit of the forest head, which is kind of essential even for his spirit. He's doing it for motives that are considered legitimate by his own means. He wants these goals. He wants money. He wants power, sort of thing, and that's his course to it.
Seem kind of villainous. It's motivation.
Amoral rather than immoral.
Okay.
I think there's one line that goes, "Everyone wants everything. That's the way of the world. But I just might have a chance to get it this time." And he's not necessarily a bad person. As you chat with him as you're eating the supper together, he's a very good guy. You can chat with him. He makes a good line, and he's not like a kick the puppy sort of person. So he's not really a full line villain himself. Okay. He's just misguided. Yeah. And so that prospect I found what would otherwise be, I suppose, a very nice anime version of like Power Rangers or the the Captain Planet sort of thing where you learn about, you got to watch out for the ecology. Could have been boring, but they managed to make a twist on it where the characters are at least nuanced enough that you pay attention to them. You don't just say, okay, this is this clear stereotype being played here. No, they have subtleties to them, so you at least want to pay attention and follow like how's it going to end for them? Like if you're a villain, you're probably going to wind up dying, by your own device. You cause, the imbalance in nature and you wind up getting gored by a giant boar. That's karma. That's how it goes. But no, they're nuanced enough. Like, well, maybe they'll escape the standard karmic fate of this stereotype. I'll keep watching. And I do like that, and so I found that to be very nicely done. And the voice actors in the English version were some of the best actors around. Just the Gillian Anderson sort of thing, just top notch. Bill Paxton was in there, and just it's just nice hearing their voices. Like, I recognize that voice. Where do I recognize that voice? Because you don't see the face to go with it. They're being done by somebody in a cartoon.
Yeah, sure.
So it was nice to hear the good voices being done as opposed to just a bunch of nobodies, I suppose.
Okay, yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong
voices
with that.
You recognize, yeah.
But so I quite enjoyed that. I give it, well, I can't give it 2 thumbs up. That's a Siskel and Ebert sort of thing. But I give it full approvals.
Full approvals.
Yes. If you want to watch a movie and it's on sale for a decent price, I very much recommend picking up Princess Mononoke.
Okay.
I can understand why, when it was out in '97, it rivaled Titanic. It was very well done, beautifully animated. Oh my goodness. Studio Ghibli knows how to do the sun shining down and and the dust motes. They get everything right. It's just beautiful to look at. You could get it in the original Japanese version, not understand a word of what anybody's saying, and still very much appreciate it because it's wonderfully animated. So if you want, I can lend it to you. You can watch it too.
Yeah, well, I probably will because that's a classic.
And that's why I picked it up. I was just getting some other stuff for my daughter. It's like, okay, well, she's getting old enough to watch, so I'll make sure we get these here. And, it's like, oh, if I buy these, this one's on sale. I was like, well, Studio Ghibli, I'd be kind of foolish not to consider picking up this one. And I don't regret it, although I'm not going to let her watch it for another couple of years, because beautifully animated means you can see every writhing demon boar tentacle thing that's coming off him as he's running around rotting the world underneath him.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, maybe when she's 5 or 6, and then we can talk to her as to what it is, and she'll be able to understand it and process it better mentally.
Well, yeah, and just me, I'm thinking about the things that you have lying around your house, and I think she's going to get used to things crawling and creepy crawlies and tentacles and stuff because you have posters and statues to that effect.
To be fair, I also have Thor's hammer, so if she ever gets feeling frightened, I'll just give her that fake hammer and she can wind up smacking things.
Yeah, she can break all your statues.
If she can make it all the way up to those statues, so be it. So, yes, that was my week in review.
Yeah, and, speaking of sort of current events, I guess future events, I want to mention Gotacon once again.
Oh, yes.
Gotacon.
I gotta get to this con.
Gotta get to this con. Coming up in February.
That is the end of February, not the start of February, because traditionally it has been the first weekend sort of thing in February.
Okay,
now it's the final weekend.
Yeah,
so.
Victoria, British Columbia. I hope that people come, take a ferry, take the weekend.
Although if you're going to take a ferry, we do recommend taking the foot traffic on the ferry as opposed to taking a vehicle, because it's like $100 to get 2 people in a car over the ferries these days.
Well, yeah, I will mention. A lot of people don't like taking public transit, but it is you can get from Vancouver to Victoria and all the way downtown Victoria, all on public transit, and the ferries, I don't know what it is now. It's probably $15.
I think it's about $15 for the foot traffic. So if you can do it, you can know your way around the public transit systems. You feel confident. We recommend that way.
Yeah, that's the cheapest way. You can bring your bike on the bus and the ferry.
Oh yes, that's right.
So you can, if you're like me and do a lot of cycling, and that's how I get around. That's my main.
And you know what they can do with all these extra savings? Instead of taking a vehicle over, flying in on a plane or anything like that, they can spend it on all the goods that you can buy there. They got the silent auction going on, and as much as I would like less rivals for real good prices on classic gaming material, I would, be a bad host of a podcast if I didn't mention up that, that you can save the money there, spend it on Gotacon.
That's right, and you can spend it at all the good merchants there. I don't suppose we'll be selling anything.
Not this year.
Maybe next year we might have, some T-shirts or something, but that's for the future.
Maybe buttons. Buttons are always nice.
Yeah, maybe a button or something. But we will be there, and we're building our audience. We're getting to know lots of people for the podcast, so looking forward to it. Looking forward to meeting people and playing games, of course. That's what I'm looking forward to all the time.
For me, the game is the silent auction. Can I make my in there? Get that last bit at the right price? Is it too priced? too high price. Let's do an appraisal check here. Okay, I think it's worth the value on that, so I'll put this on here at 3/4 that and make a bargain.
Another thing, I was catching up on some, I guess, more what I was doing this week, if we can stretch it out a little bit longer. I was catching up on the Standard Action, the web series, some of their older episodes.
Oh, yes, I am rather behind on that.
Yeah, I really, well, it's funny. I like it a lot because they feel like family, because they're local. They're Vancouver, and some of it's a little bit awkward and a little bit like, I don't know, cheesy. Is that the word? But then it's comedy. And
we'll call it camp, because that way it can have a classic value to it.
Well, camp can also have another meaning to it, but I suppose camp in the sense of... Yeah,
well, it's not like the old Batman camp, though, where it's like people running around in bad tights, when they probably should have done a couple more push-ups beforehand.
I would compare Standard Action to Batman in a lot of ways, to the Batman, the
Adam West,
action.
yeah.
Because it is funny, and it is action, and it's they do wear silly costumes.
But it's not like it's just a bunch of tights sort of thing. I've seen their costumes. They're very well done. From what I've been told, is a very reasonable price.
Yeah, it's funny because Standard Action has, like, I can say, oh, I didn't like that about it, or whatever. But the two of the things that I really think it has going for it is it's well shot, and they have like good stuff and good equipment. And I like it. Well, not that I would know about that sort of thing, but it looks good to me.
You see it when you know good quality when you see it.
And the costumes are really good. Well, there's some of the monster costumes I'm not a big fan of, but the period costumes I think are good.
Yes, I almost expect they could make a decent sideline just making up fake costumes for people. $50, and here's the best I can do for you. And then you can wind up, going about your GotaCon convention looking beautifully dressed like an Elven Ranger.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know. I think a lot of these people are professionals in other aspects, because I don't really know too much about the Vancouver film and television scene, but obviously it's big.
Well, not as big as it once was. Apparently the unemployment rate on there is a little worse than, say, when the X-Files was there.
Yeah, and so, well, the thing is, when there's a lot of unemployment, people are looking for different projects. So a lot of the people who do work on that particular series are all, they have full-time jobs in other places, and they do the series when they have time off. I think they plan on paying all of their... I think they pay their crew. I shouldn't speak for them. You can just go and visit their website and find out about this.
Or I think they do have something going on at GotaCon where they will answer questions. So if you make it down, attend their seminar and you can ask.
I guess that's why I thought.
Do you guys get paid, or is it all pro bono?
I think some of them don't get paid, but I think the crew, the people who do well, I shouldn't say actual work, because acting is work technically, but I'm not sure if they
the
pay
technical
their cast.
Behind there,
They might not pay their cast, I'm not sure. But they plan on paying everybody, I think.
The cast gets paid in celebrity status.
I guess. I mean, it sounds like a poor way to pay, but they definitely enjoy... I know that. I've seen them talk, and they enjoy what they do, so there's that. They obviously get something out of it, and they have fans, and including me, for example, for one.
Yes, so we do recommend you go there and watch what they're doing. It's nice stuff, especially for the budget and the size they're doing. It's not like they're trying to reenact all the Lord of the Rings stuff themselves, so they don't have Peter Jackson's budget.
Right, and that's another thing. Yeah, they have their own original stories, which are very creative. Sometimes they feel, I don't know, there's holes in them, but they're still funny and creative, so enjoy it for that.
I'm sure they'll plug the holes in later seasons. It'll all come in nicely woven as a tight storyline.
Yeah, something I always advocate is if something doesn't make sense in your story, well, that's an opening for another story.
Well, just make sure that your story that's covering up the first one makes sense. I recall in comics they had a whole bunch of loose ends, and they just explained it away as Superboy Prime from another universe punched reality hard enough it changed things. It's not a loophole that you're seeing. That's just him changing reality.
Oh, okay.
And I guess that's kind of a fun answer, but it's also a bit of a lazy answer.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I don't mind the fun answers, but I suppose if I can have a better answer, I'd rather have, one that makes sense. But I guess it's not that high a priority for me.
You haven't made up that many plot holes over the course of the last 15 years of a group of comics that you have to explain it all the way all at once because you're about to reboot.
Yeah. And it's funny, too, because the readers are actually paying to integrate themselves into the universe. Like, the readers, they read and absorb everything, and they might do their own little charts of relationships, and, the fans really get into it. And you might not be incentivized if you're one of the creators, and if this is your job, you might not be as into it as some of the fans. Although hopefully that's sort of the thing with creative endeavors, is you want to be as into your
work as your fans
are. Although it might be that it's never possible to truly do that because.
Well, you have to be above and beyond as the creator. You have to be at least partially outside of the whole system as it goes on. Whereas some of those fans get really deep in, and then they bring in their own weird twistedness. Because I've seen some forum comments on something that's like, "Whoa, buddy, whoa, your head was not at the right spot when you even started this. What's going on here?"
Yeah, well, taking your fiction too seriously. I mean, have we done that as a topic before? You're into your thing.
I don't think so, but it's something I want to try and avoid for a little bit, because, I mean, that usually says more about the person than the fiction itself. Good point, okay. And sometimes there are just some people that aren't meant for fiction. It's too strong for them.
So standard action, that's what it's called, by the way. The series is called, to me that feels like a bland name. It feels like a name that's very easy to gloss over, like standard action sounds...
Well, it's to bring it in to show that although we're doing this as a fantasy thing, it's also meant to reflect people playing it at the table, sort of thing.
Because it's a meta term. It's from D&D. The term standard action is something that you use at the table, and they have a standard as in the flag standard.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like, I don't know, there's a brand of toilets called American Standard. I always think of that as in, like, I don't know. Standard doesn't mean a lot to me. I guess what you want...
It doesn't have enough character associated to it? It's just too generic a term?
Yeah, I would go for something like...
full round action, man. This is...
Full round action. No, I would go for, like, epic action or, like, adventure action.
Well, they can't really call it epic if they don't have the budget for it.
So I guess that's true, yeah.
Low budget action.
Yeah.
But... I think that actually does bring us into the nice topic for today.
Okay.
Is the meaning behind a name.
Yeah, names. Yeah, there you go.
Because I mean, I'm trying to run a little campaign for you. Just a nice little thing. I want to get back into the gaming groove, play a little 3.5 stuff. Because just like not even 6 months from now, we're gonna have 5th edition come out, and I want to make sure I have at least a bit of a gaming mind, up at the forefront, so that I can quickly assimilate the rules into my own base of knowledge. So, get started early, get your brain up in gear, and that way it's easier to shift over.
Yeah, get back into it, because we are a little bit rusty when it comes to the actual games.
Yeah.
The actual rules and stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is I've been playing the electronic stuff for so long, the numbers and the rules behind it have all been obscured for so long.
Yeah, that's true.
But I was thinking, like, what to name this campaign? And I was like, well, what sort of other campaigns has D&D done throughout the day? I'm looking. Dragonlance, that's where I first got in. And there's a special part in my heart for the Dragonlance novels and all that. Because there's a time I'd be down in 3 to 5 of those things a month. Driving myself broke, picking up more novels. But it occurred to me, the Dragonlances within the setting are special lances that deal damage to dragons. They're effectively, the thick dragon hide doesn't work, in their favor anymore. These dragon lances will pierce even that thick dragon hide. And the dragon lances really haven't been featured at all. I mean, they were mentioned in the original trilogy. It became a plot point within the adventures they had back in 2nd edition to get the dragon lances to fight the dragons as they return to the land of Kryn. And since then, it's basically, like, Dragonlances. Yeah, I remember hearing about those, but no, we're focusing on other stuff right now. And they just never came back to it, so it's a bit of an artifact title. The Dragonlances don't matter in Dragonlance anymore.
Yeah, for sure. That seems to happen with titles. They sort of...
They evoke a nice resonance. Because Dragonlance, it speaks of the fantasy and the chivalry, and that kind of gets the sense of what it's like to adventure in Dragonlance.
Yeah.
What you do matters as much as, like the monsters you fight, how you enact around them. So, yeah. Whereas Ravenloft, there are very few Ravenlofts in Ravenloft.
Is that like in Game of Thrones with the ravens as messengers, like as pigeons?
No, it's the name of the main castle that first got sucked into... Well, in the 5th edition, it's going to wind up being an attachment part between the material planes and the negative energy plane. It's the middle ground, and that'll be that, as opposed to whatever was... What was it before in 4th edition? The Feywild, the Grim Dark...
Oh, wait. Oh.
In 4th edition, they had a term for a plane that was very similar to...
Oh, the Shadowfell.
The Shadowfell, that's the one. Which is, admittedly, a bit of a generic name. I didn't remember it quite so easily.
It was better in some ways than the Plane of Shadow in 3rd edition. 2nd and 3rd?
2nd and 3rd, although in 2nd edition it was only a demi-plane, but semantics.
Shadow. In 3rd edition, the Plane of Shadow.
Yeah. It did have a better name, I will give it that.
4th edition, the Shadowfell is slightly better, but it's still... Well, I mean, I think the point of the Shadowfell is it's shadowy, it's like unnoticeable, it fades away, fading, shading.
But it just seemed like it's kind of dark and it's kind of evil. Shadowfell, and they combined it, and it didn't have enough character for me to really say, ooh, what's going on here? Ravenloft, yeah. The name of the castle, and then eventually the world itself was known around as, became, it evokes like a gothic sense, the dark ravens and the lofts, you get the high buildings sort of thing, and especially with the font that they had, the whole thing printed in, it did speak of a gothic campaign style.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
although
so that's how you want to do it.
Although as it progressed, it became like, this is the campaign setting that actually has some culture to it, you ignorant primate. And so you'd be going over to like the west coast of the core group of the domains there, and that's where all the big culture was. And so Ravenloft wound up becoming like, well, the equivalent of Transylvania. You want culture, you're on the west end of the continent, and you want to go back towards the more primitive styles, the older versions of what society was like. You got to head more east. You got to go deep into the continent, sort of thing. And so it became a bit of an artifact title itself, because it wasn't always about Ravenloft. In fact, it became very little about the actual Ravenloft, although the main character Strahd was heavily tied up in things because he's a political power monger and kind of awesome. Yeah. So, he kept coming back because, hey, let's include an awesome person there. Sure thing.
Yeah.
And so, it evokes a sense, but it's also an artifact title. Forgotten Realms has been so popular and visited by so many other worlds, there's very little about it that has been forgotten. Some of these realms have been around in the setting for several thousand years because there are god kings ruling it. So it's forgotten by Earth, and that's where it's supposed to come from.
Yeah.
But it's very much not forgotten. But it does, the name Forgotten Realms evokes the sense of old and mysterious, which plays a lot to, things that have gone on in the past and how it works.
Yeah, but I suppose if you're playing in the actual, in that world...
In the realms.
It's like, oh, no, everything's happening right now, and it's all very current and modern.
Oh, although they do have the old ruins, the ruins of Myth Draenor that fell, and the old forgotten magic stuff, elven, weavings.
Yeah, you need that.
And so, and so those parts, like the previous epochs of ruler who did what there, it did have a nice sense. And so I was thinking, like, a lot of these names are, like, either artifact titles or effectively just meant to evoke a sense.
Yeah, sure.
So what am I going to name the campaign I have for you? It's going to be on the high seas, so do I call it, like, the Full Sails campaign?
Full Sails? Okay.
Because that does kind of evoke, like, oh, yes, we're on the bounding main, and I'm on a ship, and I'm fighting things, like a swashbuckler.
Yeah.
And so it does have that nice sense to it, but it really doesn't say a lot. Whereas if you look at some of the other campaign settings, the Dark Sun campaign is all about the primitive, harsh nature, and every time the world changes, the color and the size of the sun changes. And so, it is right now a dark sun, and that explains why it's so harsh. It was supposed to be more of an evolving campaign. What you got in the box set was not going to be permanent. There were some clues about it becoming a Blue Age once again. Sort of thing, so it would go back to the first age and things would become a little bit better off. but it wasn't popular enough. Things never carried on. The Dragon Kings fell, but life still remained harsh. So, c'est la vie on that one. But it would have become like a lighter sun, campaign. It would have become a brighter day, but it would still retain the dark sun campaign. And then you go to the Spelljammer, which, okay, I'll admit, a little ridiculous. Giant Vorpal space hamsters, crazy things like that. But at least they were trying. It's full of its own style, and it really made sure the Illithids had some sense to them.
Yeah, well, the word jam has got to be a very, 80s word. Jammin'.
Well, that's the thing is it was also meant like a technical term, like a nautical term. How do you get these spaceships to fly around, what was effectively what the 1890s people thought was space? Well, you have to use a Spelljammer hull. And so the core piece of integral technology was the name of the setting. How do these things fly in outer space? Well, you effectively expend spells into them to make it move.
Yeah, well, that sounds like it's a reasonable way to name a setting, Spelljammer.
And so that one worked. I mean, and so maybe I should take this campaign and I should find what's the core thing that really makes it, that really defines it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Is I going to define it all the time? What if I just want you to, have little adventures for here and there, nothing too big, nothing overarching, just fun little things. You don't have to worry about some grand, I have to save the world sort of thing. You're just, was it the Monkey Man Bard going about, playing tunes, saving the day, and having a lot of fun. It doesn't need to be grand and epic.
Well, it also doesn't need, if it's just like our campaign, just like for friends playing a game together, it doesn't have to have a name even. It can have a working title, but...
But having a name does help to define it, and does help to give it a sense of solidarity. Like, what is this going to be about? What is the thing? And so naming a thing very much does help give it its identity. Although maybe I'm taking too much of what I learned from the Planescape setting and the game Torment, wherein a person's name gives them a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, but also restricts them. Mm-hmm. And so maybe I've just learned too well from that game, and so maybe I see a name as something that is needed. Otherwise, it's too loose. It's nothing concrete. It's just nebulous. It could become anything, and I don't know. And I don't know, what am I going to prepare for? No, by giving it a name, I define it. By defining it, I give it a purpose, a role, and I give it like a good base to everything else. I'm going to build up from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can imagine a name as being sort of a fence around whatever you're doing, but a name can also be, the heart or a springboard or, the center around which you revolve, like the Dragonlance things. You don't just do dragons and lances.
No, although dragons are very prominent always throughout the active ages at which persons will adventure throughout there.
Yeah, and well, I will also mention, people often refer to a name as, you have to do, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you have to eventually fight a dragon, because dragons, people will say this, as an argument, you have to have dragons in the game because dragons are in the name.
Also, they're awesome.
And, well, for sure, dragons are awesome, and I definitely love campaigns with dragons in them. But I don't think they're entirely essential and necessary to the game of Dungeons and Dragons, even though it is in the name. Same with dungeons, although dungeons are almost essential because they define the area that you can go in.
The dungeon is a state of mind. You could make a set of areas in the woods, and so you move from A to B, but you can't get to from A directly to C because there's a cliff face or a waterfall in the way, so you have to go around. And so that way you can effectively make a dungeon in the woods. The players might never even realize it.
Yeah,
but it's still that way. It's still a dungeon, effectively.
I had, a long time ago, I had a great idea for a campaign that I never... well, it wasn't a campaign. It was a long adventure arc. I wanted to do the elemental air dungeon, in which the barriers are long, giant spaces, miles of air. And it's one dungeon, but it's connected somehow. I don't know.
So can you see the walls of the dungeon, or are they just, compressed air?
No, the walls aren't... Yeah, they're not solid. It's just each room is just miles apart from the next room. So you're in there's a little moat of stone or something that you're standing on. And it's here's a treasure chest, here's a monster. And then you can see, all directions are 360 degrees. Well, I don't know what the three-dimensional version of that is, but...
It'd be 360 times another 360 sort of
cubed,
thing.
Yeah.
So 360 squared, yeah.
360 squared, something like that. You can
That's a lot of
see
degrees, man.
all the other rooms, but they're all in the distance. So like each next like room, like I'm putting room in air quotes.
For an air dungeon, very nice.
So air quotes, air dungeon. So I was thinking that like how basically I wanted to stretch that concept of the dungeon to as far as it'll go. Whereas instead of walls, it's just a lot of space.
Well, here's an idea. I did have a nice thing. What if instead of going from A to B like that, you really work up the nature of like the plane of air, so people would be going on like rainbows, and so you'd have like certain times when the rainbows could show because of the direction of the sun.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And so the passageways would be time relevant.
Yeah.
And that could be pretty darn awesome. Like, that way, I've always liked the concept of like, you can only get there at this sort of time. Like you can only enter the dungeon 1 hour a day, and then like the piece that the opening just shifts off as it's like a big time dial that moves around. So only 1 hour a day can you get in or out.
Yeah.
You might be able to like, oh no, we're low on hit points and we're hurting, make a retreat, but you're still gonna have to wait till the proper time before you can even exit the dungeon.
Yeah, I like that as a story element. As a game element, it's not so great because it's like, we have to wait 6 hours? Okay, we wait 6 hours.
6 hours of defending against onrushing random monsters.
Yeah, random
Otherwise, it's just, no, you gotta leave. But no, these are the monsters coming at you for killing, their family. And so you gotta play the defensive game. You're the one who's getting attacked by the random stuff instead of going in slaughtering things. Yeah. And you gotta hold your own ground. You're hurting, you're wounded, there is no way out until the set time.
Yeah.
So I think something like that would be interesting. So the rainbow bridges that only appear when the sun is at a certain angle could be very entertainingly done.
Yeah.
So.
So we were talking about names.
But yes, and so I've noticed that names aren't just strictly dedicated to like the role playing stuff. Because I've read my history before. I remember the name of Sargon, and he was He was the first man to rule more than one city at a time, and that was like big things. Man, that blew people's minds. Like, how can you rule that city? You're ruling this city and that. My brain hurts.
It was like ancient Babylon.
Yeah, this would be back Sumerian and back like millennia ago.
Yeah.
But his name wasn't originally Sargon. That was the name he took when he became like King of Kings and he ruled so much. And, the names of the popes and the pharaohs. And so you have, like, this ruling name.
Yeah.
You weren't born with this name. You took it upon yourself. And you, like, became the king so-and-so. And people would even change their surnames for things. And you can see that, every once in a while in D&D. That, it's like, to reflect, like, the guy who destroyed the dragon that saved the town. We got, so-and-so, Dragon Pulper. I'm not going to use a real good name. I'm not going to let you guys get a free name out of me that way.
Well, also, like, I don't know how close D&D is to the world where you were named after what you did, but there was a time during the Dark Ages, I guess later Middle Ages, it was just traditional what your name was, but there was a time when people first came up with last names that it was
he's
just
the Smith, so he's John the Smith, and that became just John Smith.
Was a Smith, and not a ship's captain or something like that.
Unless for some reason he's got a smithy on the ship, but that was probably very rare. So in that case you can see some names, but those very much become artifact titles, because these days just because you're a smith doesn't mean your son will be a smith.
Yeah, in the modern times, yeah, for sure.
And then you have the shifting surnames of what you have over in Iceland.
You're named after your dad.
So you don't have the same surname as your parents, but your surname does have part of their first name.
Yeah.
So you can have... I do kind of like that. That has a nice sense of flair to it that I've always appreciated. Does make things a little difficult.
Also, in the Middle East, your name is every one of your male ancestors. Like, as far back as you can trace. It's part of
really
your name.
long, yeah.
It's like son of 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 son. So, yeah. You have a very long name. And that's officially their name. Like, I don't even know how
I don't think they use it all the time for each other there. They'll just find the first name and they'll even truncate that if you're good friends, so...
Yeah, well, they'll go back 2 or 3 generations to somebody who was really cool. Like, if you had a really awesome great-granddad, you'd try and get his name in there.
Yeah. But it's like, hey, just call me by my awesome great-granddad's name. Because I want to be awesome, too.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think about this, where the name shifts? Could it be like the Ravenloft campaign at the start, and then later, as they added more bits and pieces to it, during the adventures, and then they re-release the box set, it's no longer Ravenloft, but it becomes the core domains.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And sometimes they do that with different role-playing products or books or whatever. That they just.
Well, that's the thing with Dragonlance. They eventually changed it to Dragonlance 5th Age because it's in the new age, and they wanted to show the difference of it as opposed to the old stuff.
Yeah, and also it's new artists taking on the project. It's usually
Larry Elmore can't do the art for every piece there. I mean,
artists and different writers and different designers take their crack at it. So they want to reposition and just call it the new version something else.
Well, I think it would be a nice way to reflect changes between the editions, because Ravenloft has been Ravenloft since 2nd edition, and this will make 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 4th version around then.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if they gave it a proper name that is reflective of what's going on there now, they call it the Second Conjunction campaign. Ooh, a second conjunction. Oh, that reminds me of the first one. All that, and that brings in the old people. It's like, oh, there's more plot. This is going to progress.
Yeah. So that's the thing. There's if you have a good, well fleshed out setting, which you probably do. If it became popular somehow, you probably did do something right. There's often a lot of things in that setting that you could draw from for naming and for branding and stuff. So you don't have to keep the.
Well, I understand stuff like Ravenloft for its first title, because it was originally just like a Halloween adventure. I think it was Tracy Hickman ran for his friends that got published. Mm-hmm. And so it was just, you go to the castle of this place in a dark, misty land, and just hope you don't die. Haha. And that's basically it. Mm-hmm. And then later on they said, you know what, this was really popular. We had a lot of people sending in a lot of positive letters. Can we make this like a box set campaign? Can we make more out of this? And then they did. Mm-hmm. And I understand them listening to their lawyers. They say, okay, this is good topic, this is good product. You have to copyright this. So it's Ravenloft, and then you got that little circle R there, registered, trademark. So I can understand them wanting to keep it, because, you got a trademark name now.
Yeah.
But you could have just, the Ravenloft is, like a Ravenloft trademark sort of thing and all that. The Second Conjunction sort of thing, and that's what you'll call the next arc of it. And then it moves more from just the standard box set, or in this case, the hard paperback sort of things that you get. And you move it more to I guess kind of like a comic style, where this is this story arc we're doing here, and once that's done, it'll be, Ravenloft, Fractured Domains sort of thing, and then we'll have another title for it, and so it'll be Ravenloft da-da-da. Mm-hmm. And so that way it does, I think, help keep more life being breathed in, as opposed to, okay, 3rd edition, we'll just update the stats, re-release it. And let's face it, I love Ravenloft, I love a lot of the settings, but for most of them, they didn't really progress the age very much. They may have added a few years, but not much. And a lot of people said in 4th edition, you've ruined the Forgotten Realms by jumping it ahead 100 years, and all this stuff is different now. No, at least they're doing something with it.
Yeah, I think that was a good move on their part.
They have to try. If you want to keep things fresh, you have to keep updating things. You have to keep going up year by year. Yeah. And I will admit, Shadowrun did some very nice things with that. They did like a state-of-the-art 2063 and a state-of-the-art 2064. And so you'd pick up, I got the 2064, and it shows like what's happened throughout their adventures, and this is how the official story has updated. These are the new technologies going on and what's happening. Mm-hmm. And it did feel more like it was progressing. It wasn't just, here's a generic start point, and every time you guys start a new campaign, it's at this start point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the Star Wars universe, like that you can play.
They have multiple eras, yeah.
Yeah, you can go all the way back to the Old Republic, or even you can go back to the.
You go forward to the stuff that's no longer officially canon. You can fight the Yuzong Vong, and you can fight the guys from outside the galaxy.
Yeah, although that, I suppose, having a timeline like that you can go back and forward to in also has its issues, because some of the outcomes are sort of fixed, like Darth Vader and the Emperor have to die at the end of Episode 6. Spoiler alert, everybody.
No, I think it's old enough that you don't need to put a spoiler alert there. I mean, I think we're okay on that. Yeah. But here's the thing is, I mean, it's your campaign. If you want to change it, so that you wind up betraying Luke Skywalker and he doesn't kill Darth Vader, you save Vader's life and become, like his apprentice as the two of you overthrow the Empire. and you start off, like his, era of rulership, go for it. It's your campaign. Wait, is George Lucas going to come knocking on your door saying, hey, that goes against the movie.
Wonder.
Knock it off.
Well, I don't know what does George Lucas think of the role-playing universe? I don't even know.
I don't think he thinks that much about it at all. And now that he's sold off the rights to Disney, I don't think he's thinking at all about it.
Okay. Well, yeah. Now he's not really involved so much.
Although he might have, he does seem like the kind of guy who knows to find a good idea when somebody puts it out there. A lot of people said his stuff was derivative of some of the old samurai movies. Whatever.
Yeah.
You can have a good theme and then say, okay, I want to try it this way, and and expand it to an audience that wouldn't otherwise watch this sort of story. Mm-hmm. So instead of them being katanas, I'm going to make it a lightsaber, and that'll be awesome, and I'll get people totally paying attention.
Yeah, it did.
And it did. So yeah. So I mean, I suppose he would be definitely willing to look through. It's like, oh, what if you come up with alien races? I like what you've done here. I wouldn't mind trying some out like that. So I think I write a small script there and see if it comes out. Guess not. I guess I'll toss it. He seems like the kind of guy who would actually look at them at stuff as raw material with which to use.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Well, I don't know.
He seems smart enough to at least acknowledge that there's information out there he could look through, pick through, and have some fun with.
Yeah, but at the same time, the information that he does pick, he likes the stuff that's already popular. He likes stuff that's already stood the test of, people like samurai movies, so... let's take from there. People like this other thing. Let's take from there. So I don't know if it's enough that it simply exists. I mean, some of the expanded universe stuff has its own following and fandom, so I suppose that's worth drawing from. Although it's not sort of mainstream in everybody's consciousness.
No, not until the movie comes out, or I suppose a TV series. Some nice stuff done with the Clone Wars that brought things to people's attention. Mm-hmm. And some nice aliens you can't otherwise get with your standard rubber forehead prosthetics.
Yeah, those are always fun. Yeah. That's the great thing about role-playing games. You don't have a budget when you're.
There's no budget to your imagination, baby.
Although it's always actually seeing cool aliens on screen. There's nothing to beat that, but.
Oh yeah, well, provided it's done right. I mean, every once in a while you'll see things like, wow, you really failed at that. Cause
that just looks like a person in a suit.
I like the Star Trek series very much, but you know what? Spock was not fighting a gaseous entity. He was fighting a fog machine from the other side of the set.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's what I saw, and that's just how the budget is right now. That said, I think they did some nice stuff in the Next Generation that also wound up looking kind of hokey 10 years down the road because of CGI effects. So maybe there's no permanent right solution. Maybe the fog thing, it's cheaper and it'll always look like fog no matter what we do, so it's just fog coming through the gas vent.
Yeah, in some ways I guess you just have to trust your actors. In some, they have to, if they're convincing that they're in trouble.
What's the thing is, it turns out Spock was not in trouble. The alien would normally get rid of the red corpuscles within a body, but Spock's alien copper Cooper-based blood was enough to give it indigestion, I suppose, or some equivalent to that, and it left. So Spock didn't die. Everyone's in the room thinking he's dead. He shoved the ensign out, and he closed the door behind him, and he's trying to close the vent so that the alien doesn't come in and kill, and start killing everyone. And, oh no, what are you doing? Well, I have to make sure it's safe before we can open the door. And he's like, oh no, he's probably dead in there. Door opens, Spock's all nice and calm. Fortunately, nobody is dead today. Just walking out all calm and cool, because Spock was the coolest person on the series, but he always played it just so low down. You could see him as a science nerd and not even realize he was cooler than Kirk.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that the argument for the ages, Kirk versus Spock?
Well, I mean, Kirk had to, in some sense, be much more of a authoritarian figure because he was the captain.
Yeah.
Spock didn't have to obey, the rules to the degree like, I have to meet all the dignitaries this way.
But he didn't? Okay.
No, he was a science officer. All he had to do was greet them scientifically when the situation...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, you want to know about science? Well, come on over here, and I'll show you my awesome Vulcan science project.
Vulcan science, all right.
You want to play some futuristic, space, instruments? I got a few here. I play. That's right, I'm logical, but I know how to play music. There's a logic to music. Did I blow your little human mind? That's how I picture him on the inside. His inner funky humor.
Huck's inner monologue.
He's all calm on the
half
outside.
human.
Yeah. He's calm on the outside and the accent, but that's what I hear in his mind.
Yeah.
Did I blow your little freaky human mind? I'm a Vulcan that plays musical instruments. Dig it. I'm playing with space hippies right now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But yes, okay, we're on a bit of a tangent there. So what do you think of for official, like, ruling titles where it does change, where you become...
like in the real world, like with kings and...
Well, we'll go with the Pope, because I think throughout the last couple of years we've had a few popes, so it changes over. So you have Cardinal Ratzinger become Benedictine the 16th.
Benedict.
Was it just Benedict, not Benedictine?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Benedict the 16th.
Yeah.
And what do you think about those weird titles like that, where you suddenly assume a new name, and all of a sudden the name you were born with and you've spent the last sometimes 80 years with suddenly no longer applies to you. You're Pope so-and-so.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's cool. Like, I like that whole, like, arcane sort of feel to it. It's like, now I have a new name. Now
I have ascended to this position, and thus I ascend to the new name.
Yeah, I like that. I wasn't a big fan of the name in particular, Benedict the 16th. I don't feel it rolls off the tongue, but
I say the added title they used to have for him as the Enforcer does help out. He's Benedict the Enforcer. That sounds like a really good fighter ship, man. We've got Benedict class Enforcers coming in on the situation. We got to get out of here now.
Yeah, and Francis sounds more, I don't know, it sounds more like your brother. Like,
but it sounds more peaceful, which, let's face it, some of the things he said really does seem to have a calming effect, and he does really seem like a nice, calm Francis.
Possibly, yeah.
Not like my name is Francis, I come in and I say automatically, we must not only, excommunicate these sorts of people, but we must actively punish them to show the sin. That doesn't sound like a Francis to me.
Yeah.
Francis sounds like a calm person who says, like, well, so-and-so is a sinner, but has the desire to find God. Who am I to judge? And, that sounds kind of like a Francis.
Yeah, I think he said something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, what if we stopped actively saying what we hated and start saying what we loved? That sounds like a good, active thing for a person with the title of Francis for their name.
Yes, you should hide your hate deep inside.
Or at least just not make it the core central focus of who you are.
Okay.
He was like, what if we reverse it? What if instead of like a core of hate followed by like an outer ring of love, and we focus it so we've got the core of good, and then we just got some evil hate hanging off on the outside.
Yeah. Okay.
So he flips your mind on the inside. It's like, whoa, I'm a peace-based guy. And like, yeah, that sounds like a Francis to me.
A little bit of hate hanging off you, but we can work on that.
But yeah, that's the process of being a living human being. Everyone's got a little hate hanging on them somewhere. Everyone's got their weird little hang-ups on there. It's all about smoothing that off in the end. Yeah. It's not about having that. It's the core of your being.
Yeah.
And so he sounds very peaceful, and that's very much like what you'd expect out of someone with the name Francis.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
Although I guess the people that know him a little bit better, they just call him Pope Frank.
Pope Frank. I don't know what his friends call him. He speaks Portuguese, right?
Yeah. So what's the Portuguese equivalent to Francis? It's still like, Francis, isn't it?
Is he from Brazil or is he Argentinian? I don't know.
We'll have to check it out. But he's much more of a peaceful character. So if he had the name Benedict, it would be a little odd because Benedict sounds like a harsher name. Benedict sounds like something that works well with the Enforcer as a title.
Yeah, even though Benedict, doesn't it mean nice guy or something?
It does, but the way people wind up saying it now, it's like some of the things in the German language. Yeah. There are some things like Der Schmetterlein. It means butterfly, but the way you can say it in the German tongue, it can sound very nasty. It sounds like something with spikes and poison. Der Schmetterlein has killed you.
From the Monster Manual.
Yeah.
You should write that up. Would that be a fey creature?
That would be either a fey creature or a magical beast.
Yeah.
Der Schmetterlein is like a butterfly from the plane of fire and earth sort of thing. So it's got like big flaming metal wings, man. It's like Iron Butterfly, but it's like awesome with powers, and it's like totally something of like an 80s rock opera. Sweet. Beware Der Schmetterlein. It's the worst dire butterfly you ever seen, buddy.
Another thing that happens with names too is people repeat names, the second, the third, the fourth, and also sometimes people aren't even related. Will take the same. Well, I guess that happens with popes. That's what happened with this pope.
That's why you have 16 Benedicts.
16 Benedicts.
It's not like they're related. It's just I don't want to be confused with any of the 15 previous ones.
Yeah. And like a part of me really likes unique and new names. Like I like when somebody like why can't there be a Pope Zoltan? Well, Pope Zoltan is like Zoltan. That's a name from Hungary, or something like that.
That would be a pretty awesome sounding pope. All hail Pope Zoltan. And then you got a bunch of people just, like screaming the Latin chant in the background as he comes up. Big fire pots bursting like boom, boom, boom. Or
is that the
got the face paint and he's got like all, the markings on there. Just comes out rocking it out. Yeah. Okay, it's official. In my mind, Pope Zoltan is not an actual pope. He's just a really good, like Norwegian rock band.
Norwegian now, okay.
Yeah, he's a Norwegian death metal that's using it, and that's his thing. He's like the Pope of black metal. There we go. I made it up. He's now a fictional entity in whatever one you want to put in. Pope Zoltan. He's the hardest rocker coming out of Norway these days.
Okay, sounds good. Norwegian with the Hungarian name, but that's fine.
That's okay. So the name sounds cool for that sort of thing. So yes, I do think it adds a sense of legitimacy to have the number at the end, like Benedictine the 16th. Because that indicates age, and like to make sure this has lasted this long, you have to have at least 15 people before you. This has got to be a lasting organization.
Yeah, for sure. Although,
or dynasty, depending how you want to look at it.
I don't think any organization has lasted like that long without being basically radically changed. But I guess that's why you keep the name, is sort of to evoke that feeling.
Yeah, the ancient legitimacy.
Even if the feeling might be a little bit misleading, or I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I gotta say, what I prefer though is the names that also include in the region. Like I was looking up Queen Isabella, the one that helped finance Columbus's expedition to the New World. Yeah. It's like, you know what? I've seen her before, but it was in Bugs Bunny cartoons, and she was clearly not meant to be the real Queen Isabella. She was based off of like a famous actress of the day. So like what was actually about her? And I'm reading up, and her name was like Isabella of the region she comes from, and so it's like Isabella of this place. And so I do kind of like that as a style, because that way you can have like her daughter was named Isabella, but she's Isabella of another location. She was the Isabella that ruled from here. And so I do kind of like that because it connects you to the land in some way. And as opposed to just having like just add another number onto the end of that one there, sort of thing. Or, add a title as to what your personality is like. I'm of this land. And I think for stuff like rulers, it really does apply well. Because it means a person who does care about the land.
Enough to be willing to.
It has become a part of you and your name. And once again, with my perspective of a name generates part of your identity perspective, it does work out very well. I am the Ryan of Victoria, but I was previously the Ryan of Kootenais.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, it's like it might be a little bit colonial or what, because you might not be from that place originally, but you move there and you'd be like I don't know, the Prince of Wales is not really from Wales.
No, I don't think there's been a Prince of Wales from Wales in a very long time.
Yeah, so it's like it's aspirational in some ways. It's like, well, I want to be the Prince of this place, so I'll name myself after the place.
But here's the thing: he's still Prince William. He's not Prince William the Whale.
Yeah.
Or whatever, the Welsh, Prince William the Welsh.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So it becomes part of his title. So then he's the Prince of Wales, sort of thing. And so I do like that, because I've seen a lot of fantasy stuff. Oh, Prince and Princess and Duke and Duchess, but they never have it like, oh, this is the Duchess, of Ernst, because in the Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk setting, there's like 3 Ernsts. And there's one duchy there, so she would be the Duchess of Ernst.
Yeah, don't they have that in there?
She's just called the Duchess.
Okay.
It might be part of the official title, but they're never addressed that way, as in, she says, oh yeah, Duchess so-and-so. It's not so-and-so Duchess of Ernst. And so it always felt to me like, we'll just give her a title to make sure she's important.
Sure, yeah. And have important people in the game.
Well, so that's the thing. A good, important NPC, but it never felt like they were really that attached. It's just, okay, NPC, this level, this class, and there's the title, stickered on. It didn't really feel to me the same way you see in the royalty now, like the Prince of Wales or the Duchess of Cambridge.
Yeah, well, I guess with our, like, the royalty that exists in our world, we sort of kind of are more familiar with them because we see them in the newspaper and.
But it's not that
TV.
hard to replicate for fantasy purposes.
Yeah.
So, this is the Princelet of the Forgotten Vale. And Princelet will be whatever, a title for someone who's as close to royalty as that area gets, but not official royalty or whatever. So yeah, the Princelet of the Hidden Vale. I can dig it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just adding another, seemingly just tacked on title.
Yeah, well, you wonder, too, like, what's the culture in a medieval world?
Or pseudo-medieval in most cases.
Medieval. Because in our history, people really cared about kings and queens and stuff, and they're like celebrities, and like everybody sort of followed what they were doing.
Well, they're celebrities now. They were very much more obscure and almost, even in their own time, mythical for the average person. Cause
the average person wouldn't really know who the king was, or
well, there'd be stuff proclamation from the king, and they might know the name of it properly, but they wouldn't, like, if you put a bunch of people in royal get-ups in a lineup, they wouldn't be able to say, "Oh, that's my king right there." And they'd be very much just like a title and a figure that they'd heard of. And that's maybe why I think the titles work better in the real world than you see in fantasy. Because if it's the Prince of Wales saying something, you don't need to know what he looks like. The title is him. The title is as much the image as his actual face.
Well, and that's another problem they had in the ancient world, was that sometimes they could have a ruler could be switched. With, like, someone else could just take over and be like, yeah, what?
But
I'm so-and-so.
Admittedly, to the common person, it really didn't matter much.
Yeah.
Like, here in Canada, it depends on the party that gets in power, especially if it's a majority government, as to what laws will get passed. If it's a conservative government, you can expect certain things. If it's a liberal government, you can expect certain things. I mean, it'll all end up winding up the same in the end. Scandal, people get tired of it, and then it gets changed over to something else.
Yeah.
At least that's how it seems to be. But you can expect slightly different things from it. Whereas back in the day, it really didn't matter who was in power. You're always going to get the same ruler trying to keep the status quo, because that's how you stay the ruler.
Yeah, well, during obviously the era of the French Revolution, and after that, when other countries started having revolutions and splitting off and stuff, they would have various people say, well, make me the king and I'll make your peasant lives better, or, lower your taxes.
I won't put gold on my food and then eat it, like some horribly rich do-nothing.
Yeah.
And like, well, that does sound pretty good. I don't know why he was eating the gold in the first place. I don't think it tastes like anything. And so, I can understand that. But that basically became a very chaotic election.
So, there were sort of revolutionary-minded monarchs who thought that it might be a good idea to appeal to the people to support themselves.
If all these people come up against me, they could seriously throw me out of power and even kill me. Maybe I shouldn't tick them off all the time by, just horribly abusing them.
Yeah,
and that was a revolutionary idea. The concept of that is apparently still alien and foreign in some parts of the world, and that's a little weird for me to even think about.
Well, that's true, because there were other people who were I have knights who have iron armor and horses.
What part of President for Life do you not understand?
Or, in the modern era, it's tanks and missiles.
That's right, I got planes. So I've got the high ground, so do as I say.
Yeah.
Or I will use these planes that I've previously alluded to.
Although I think the United States mostly has the high ground whenever they want it in the world today. Still,
I don't know. With China being able to go up into outer space, and they've got their little space stations and landing on the moon and all that, there is no ultimate high ground anymore. Not for one nation. There's some nice ranges. Like, apparently, given 4 hours' notice, North Korea could become, radioactive glass. Because they can get a plane that quickly over that distance and just drop whatever they feel like on it. So there's something to be said about speed and distance in this era.
Yeah, our era is very technological. What does that have to do with names?
I don't know. This is another tangent, which, by the way, was the alternative title for our podcast. Tangents.
Oh, yes.
Very descriptive, I suppose. But, in the end, though, it's always the president for the president of America. It's not like they changed their title, and it's not like, I am the Barack of Chicago.
Okay, yeah. It's always...
And
yeah.
so in that case, the title and the figure of that one really doesn't change. It becomes the party base in that one. So in that case, the party name winds up becoming effectively the title or the new name. Which president is it? Oh, it's the Republican president. It's the Democratic president.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, that's very that's an identifier of...
And as long as the party doesn't undergo a lot of change, it's always going to wind up being the same. Like, you could make an argument right now that the Republican Party could, say, these Tea Partiers, we're going to oust them from it, and we're going to effectively clean house, and then we're going to rebrand ourselves as a bunch of professional, middle-of-the-road kind of people, and this will take the middle of the road, and then the Democrats, if they want voters, will have to go to the crazy left, the Tea Partiers get the crazy right, and we'll just snag the middle, and then we become in power. And so then the concept of the Republican president won't be seen as being conservative or on the political right, they'd be seen as political middle. But until something like that happens, a Republican president is going to be a Republican president, and it really doesn't matter which person is in power because they will be a Republican.
Okay, yeah.
And so in that case, the party thing effectively becomes a name to them as much as their actual name or their title as President of the United States of America, or POTUS, as people keep calling it now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. What about people who get a name like doctor? Like, if you've been to school for 10 years or whatever it is, now you're Dr. so-and-so. Like,
that's a professional title. You've earned that. You've either bribed your way enough or you've actually earned it properly, and either way it deserves at least a little bit of respect. Different kinds for different ways, but at least some respect. And that's why if the person is a doctor, I will make the urge to call them doctor in all appropriate times. Yeah. Just like I will call, a police officer as often as possible, because the training is not that easy, and they have to go through a lot of stuff. And they don't always live up to the proper ideals from when they were trained, as the news will be able to point out from time to time. But you know what? I still say they deserve the respect, so they will get the title of officer whenever I'm addressing them.
Okay.
And I think that works. I think that works appropriately. That's it. I don't think anybody that's gone like I have a bachelor's degree, and so I can use that line from Ghostbusters. Hey, back off, man! I'm a scientist.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm just going to be throwing that around. Only when I need to put weight behind my name for a viewpoint. Like, I'll be talking with my coworkers, and they'll be saying, how come my view isn't right? And I'm like, well, I've got a bachelor's degree in biology. I've studied this. I can tell you why you're wrong in 5 different ways, but just trust me, you're not right. So it's only when I want to put the weight behind it to say,
you're too lazy to...
Well, I could do that, but then I will wind up having to split it up between several times because I got to go do this chore, I got to do that, I got to be over here. I can't just sit down and have a nice, discussion. Let's get some coffee down here. We'll sit down and I'll explain to you quite calmly and rationally why you're wrong on 5 different levels. So, it's only when I want to say, okay, long story short, here's my credentials. You're just gonna have to believe me on this one. You're wrong, and I can explain why, but you can just trust me on this, and we can work it positively from there. I don't do that from all fields. It's usually just, like my biological background. So, if I was to be, asked an engineering question, I would not try and throw my weight behind that. There's some stuff I do know about oxidation and chemical reactions and all that, but that's about as far as it winds up going. Now, I do know there are some people that wind up getting some weird ideas like, oh, yes, I've got a doctor's degree and I've been doing this for 40 years. I'll speak my mind about any field. No. Unless you're properly trained in it, you're not an expert in all fields.
Right, yeah, you're not an expert. I mean, anyone can speak their mind, but don't be pretending that because you're a doctor in
You can throw your doctorate name and weight behind whatever your opinion is.
Well, unless you're Stephen Colbert, DFA.
That's the fun thing is he does that to mock it, as Stephen Colbert tends to do. He's helping my example out here. Just because you're an expert in one field doesn't mean you're an expert in all fields. And that's why you get the jokes, Dr. Dre, what kind of a doctor are you? Could you help me if I'm sick? And you do something like, no, because I'm a podiatrist. I can only help you if your feet hurt. He will give a good line like that every once in a while, just to have fun and poke that if people ask him. Because I imagine people have asked him that question, what kind of a doctor are you, Dr. Dre? That eventually he comes up with a nice snappy answer to burn you. all in good fun.
You know who's a real doctor in IRL, in real life? Is Ken Jeong, the Professor Chang from Community.
Ah. I did not know that. That's kind of awesome to know.
He's a doctor in real life.
Well,
and he's also in the Hangover movies.
Or what's her face from Big Bang Theory? Sheldon's
Mayim Bialik.
Yeah, Mayim Bialik. She actually knows what the brain is.
Yeah, she's got a degree in.
She's got advanced degrees in neuropsychology.
Oh, that's cool.
I actually just hearing her talk with Dana Carvey about like his kids, because he's got teenage kids and they do stupid things, and she explains they're not doing stupid things because they're stupid, but because their brains aren't fully formed at this stage. And then she is able to explain like the region and what's going on there and why they're not developmentally, finished yet. And so, on a show of Conan O'Brien, you can learn about good mental psychology and why teenagers are stupid. At least why they act so stupid and foolish. And so it's kind of nice. So it's two actor and actress up there, and you wind up learning about neuropsychology. She's got the degrees for it.
That's cool.
I think that is very cool. So it also helps when she's doing like stuff in the lab, when she's supposed to be going through and giving the lines. She'll actually do it procedurally correct. So if you're paying attention to what she's doing rather than just what she's saying, you can actually learn good process and standard operating procedures. So, or at least as well as can be expected. Sometimes they'll be eating lunch in there, and you're not supposed to eat in the same sort of area where you're like cutting brains into slices.
All right.
But that's just for the purpose of putting the storyline together, and that's a forgivable sin, because it's all fiction in there. I mean, she's not really cutting a brain up in there, unless they get something from a cow for added realism, but I don't think they actually do that. I think it's all props. I think. Don't quote me. So yes, we've been going for just about 90 minutes now.
Oh yeah, I want to remind everyone about email address that we have. We have one. We have an email address. You can use the magic of the internet to contact us, to let us know if we got something wrong or if we...
And what's the easiest way to figure out how to contact us? Well, we have a name, and through that name you can find us, The Simulationist.
Yes, this is The Simulationist at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesimulation. Find us on YouTube. We just put these whole, what you're listening to now, you'll find on YouTube. It's
nice for a little background thing. You want to do some nice little work. You don't want to be completely alone, but you don't want to feel like, I gotta listen to some music. Put us on. Got a half hour of two nice guys chatting and hopefully making you laugh every once in a while.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyways.
Maybe we'll make you smile. We'll see what we can do about making you laugh. I'll keep the chuckles going.
Hopefully, yeah. Let's see. So yeah, if you find any of those places, the blog page also has it's thesimulationist.com is the blog page. They all have like little boxes where you can write in comments. I try and check all those. I hope I haven't missed any. Yeah.
If we have missed it, just send it again, all in caps.
Yeah, that'll get our attention. But yeah, the Gmail address is probably the best way to get a hold of us.
The best guarantee. So yes, what do you think? Long story short, for names, does it really matter to have what the specifics of the name is, or does it just matter that you have a name?
Probably not. It matters. Names matter for when people first encounter a thing, because when they first encounter it, it's like, what's it all about? Is it about stars and wars? I probably would like
There's not a lot of wars going on, but people are trekking from star to star. Oh, okay, I get that now. Okay.
So it has to be sort of evocative, and it has to sound interesting. But after you get over that, as long as you can keep your audience finds your thing again somehow. So you might want to have related names, or keep the same name somewhere in the title.
Well, the thing is, Doctor Who. I mean, has he ever actually been referred to as Doctor Who? I think people just refer to him as the Doctor.
Yeah, his name is the Doctor, I think.
And there could be the occasional joke, Doctor Who. You hear a little rim shot in the background of your name drop.
The Doctor, that really bothers me when people don't name a main character. Like the Doctor from Doctor Who.
Well, see, the Doctor does have a proper name. It's just he keeps it hidden because the way they write involves like time circles, so your name is like the history of your life. So by keeping his name secret, what he actually does is prevent other Time Lords from knowing and predicting what he is going to do. So that way he becomes unpredictable. He's effectively nameless to maintain formlessness.
But couldn't he just decide, well, for the purposes of communication and basic being able to understand each other, my name will be Tom?
No, that's why he's chosen the title The Doctor.
Uh-huh.
And so the title evokes a sense of professional, but the lack of it being like a doctor so-and-so allows him to maintain that formlessness again.
Couldn't he be Dr. Tom?
He could be Dr. Tom, but again, having the name would wind up defining him a little bit somehow. And so he has to save the day and be able to keep one step ahead of all those who would try and control the future the way they want to control the future, as opposed to him letting it go free and happy. He has to maintain as little a name as possible, so that's why he's just got a title of the Doctor.
Well, I guess I don't mind that there is a character out there somewhere, but I think people need names. People.
Well, that was along for the Star Trek Voyager thing. Like, what's the EMH Doctor's name? He's just the Doctor there, because he was never supposed to have a name. He was just supposed to come in when the emergency was so bad that the actual real-life Doctor who had a name needed some help. But he died in the first episode because someone hit him with a part of the ship as everything was falling down.
Yeah.
And so he became the Doctor of the ship. And it was like, what's his name? And he always, like, he had a name here and he had a name there, but it always wound up like having an association with it, and he winds up dropping it because it hurts him to remember the name. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I was saying about names, like once you get going and into your story and your audience is captive and you know they're coming back, then names probably don't matter all that much. Your name of your series or whatever.
It just becomes something people can use as a term.
Yeah. And I suppose, if you want to keep getting new audience, you need to have an accessible name that's interesting and that says something about your thing. But honestly, I don't like...
It really doesn't matter so long as you've got something that seems to evoke the right message that you've got for what you're going to be doing in your own thing.
I don't think it even needs to necessarily... be related. It's just the label on it. So as long as people understand what you're talking about, and that's another thing we didn't really get into, but the sort of the obscure names and the names that are references to inside jokes and stuff, whereas like outsiders won't be able to pick up something and understand. Or
just randomly artificial names. I've created a few monsters over the years where it's just like, okay, random name generator. Oh, there it goes. That's what I'll put in, and then I'll come to it and I'll go later on like, what the heck is this thing? Because it didn't have any. It was just random letters and something I could pronounce. It didn't evoke anything from the name, so I'm gonna have to wind up going back and changing it to something that seems to indicate what it is to some degree.
And there's a balance too with that, because you want a name that's evocative of some sort of feeling or a thing, but you don't want to go all the way over to like Darth Vader territory. Well, Darth Vader's actually works kind of, although if you know. I think it's Vader is German for father, or it's fodder or something.
Yeah,
basically, it's how you would pronounce it, something like that. Anyways, but yeah, you don't want Darth Sidious. Sounds too. It's too close to Insidious. It's too close to definitely this guy is evil, so we gave him an evil name. Sort of like no, you have to walk a fine line between giving him a name that doesn't sound like happy and joyful, but.
Or again, what you could wind up doing is work with a title as well. He was not just Darth Vader, he was Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith.
Yeah.
And so, Darth and Vader might not seem like anything to you, but his title added after, Dark Lord of the Sith. It's like, ooh, that sounds pretty nasty. This guy must gotta be a pretty good powerhouse. And you can see that in D&D. You have the Illithids, or the Mind Flayers. And so Illithid probably doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's just an artificially created name. But calling them the Mind Flayers afterwards as part of their title, picture like a mind. Now flay that! Yeah, that explains exactly what they're doing to you mentally, man. So, you can have a random name, but it really would help you out to have a nice, concise, like a title or, thing to give them afterwards, and that'll help out a lot too, which is what I'm going to have to wind up doing with a few of my creatures as I go through and start updating things for 5th edition when it comes out.
Yeah, it's always good, especially like if you have a fleshed out world to have multiple names for your creatures, because then you can have the best of both worlds. You can have that funny weird name.
The dwarves call it so and so, but the people of the plains just refer to it as the burrower through grasses.
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of has a little bit of a translated feel too. If you like, he who walks at midnight and picks his nose and sort of whereas the word might be Elvacalich.
Yeah, just a random thing, and so it does help out for the fake languages without having to come up with an actual language, because we're not all Tolkien. We don't just spend time coming up with fake languages all over the place, you know.
Yeah.
Would that we could be. Maybe one day in the future we will be, but for now, it's just Josh and Ryan.
Yeah, well, I guess we should wrap it up with that. I have been Josh Trelevin.
I've still been Ryan Kirkby.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time.